I've been. Dreams are seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trails. Inventive journey never fails. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Neil Twa. And Neil started his journey, wanted to be a fighter pilot. So after senior year, started to go down that route, but found out he didn't qualify to be a fighter pilot because he didn't fit in the cockpit. So he went off to college instead. After the third year of college, left college and got into the internet and programming. Went to work with IBM and then Sprint for a period of time. And then after that, went down the route of doing a few of his own businesses, which led him to where he's at today. So with that much as a quick introduction, welcome on the podcast, Neil.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Excited to have you on and to hear your journey. So
Yeah.
I just gave a quick run through to a
Sure.
much longer journey, but why don't we rewind and unpack things a little bit and tell us a little bit more about how your journey got started, wanting to be a fighter pilot when you're in high school.
Yeah. Well, don't we all have dreams of doing something as a kid? Astronauts, fighter pilots, right? I don't know. We always go like, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or some of these things. Maybe some people do. I didn't. I wanted to fly. I want to go fast. Like I was always about going fast, downhill biking. We lived in the mountains of Oregon, and we played a lot. We played hard. We played outside, and so just doing things and having adventures was part of my life. So it made sense to me that the go fast aspect of being a fighter pilot is what I wanted to do. So I didn't really have any plans for college. My high school counselors were like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I guess I'll go be a fighter pilot." Well, it didn't work because I'm too tall. I have a friend who tried this too, and his legs were too long, so he couldn't fit in the F-15 cockpit. My body upper torso was too high, so I couldn't fit with the canopy closed. So we both got rejected from it, and that was a little bit of a setback because I didn't have any plans. But I did have music in my life. I played trumpet since I was in the fourth grade. I've been in band and jazz and all that stuff, and so I got fired up about just going to school and at that point, and because that was my pivot plan, and ended up getting almost a full ride music scholarship to a little liberal arts college out in Iowa. And really, what I did for 3 years was figure out that I didn't want to do that or live in a van down by the river because that's kind of where that trajectory was headed for me. And around that same time, 97, 96, the internet was coming online, emails were coming up. The first area in the downstairs of the library was being cleaned out for the computer lab. Things that were new, right? And I was very much wanting to know about that. And I jumped into computer science, and I had about 30 hours between that and business management degree. I figured I'll just kind of finish in that area. But really, there was no one to teach us anything. There was traditional marketing, but there was no real computer science. At that point, it was like Fortran and COBOL. I'm like, I don't want to be doing Fortran and COBOL. I want to know about HTML at that point, and CSS, and what about these new things called active server pages and stuff like that, and databases. And they're like, well, we don't know anything about that. We can't train you. So I ended up going and jumping schools to a place in Missouri, and I met with 1 semester of computer science, a guy who actually worked at Sprint as a contract programmer. And he said, well, no, you're not going to learn anything that I can teach you in my job if you're going to be here in school. And I said, okay, that's enough of that. So I quit. Went and got a little job working as a technician at a little computer store in Blue Springs, Missouri, where I was just helping them wire computers together, kind of stuff that I was doing similar to the college. And I got learning heads down every night, playing with HTML and CSS, and then ASP, active server pages, and databases, and just got really self-trained in that and started applying for consulting gigs.
So
And
just before that, at
yeah,
one point, because you'd mentioned, got I think at least near a full ride or a full ride to
yeah,
college, and you did that for
yep.
a few years. At
Did
what point did you kind of make the decision, hey, I'm not going to do college anymore? Or was that just one
yeah,
day or told the college I'm dropping out and keep whatever
yeah,
money I've already given you and see you
yep.
later? Or was that a
That's exactly what
slower
happened.
transition, or
It was
how
that
did you kind of make that shift?
Yeah. It was that semester at CMSU in Warrensburg where I switched to a computer science major, and it was the adjunct professor who was traveling between Kansas City and Warrensburg, and he was teaching, programming. And we got into the conversation one day about what kind of programming stuff he was doing as part of his work. And he's like, well, I don't do any of this programming. And I'm like, well, you don't do what you're teaching us, COBOL, Fortran, that kind of stuff? And he's like, no, I don't do any of that. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm learning HTML, JavaScript, CSS. I'm learning web-based technologies. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And he's like, you can't do that here. So after that conversation, I went back and as the Star Wars joke, I'm like, went home and rethought my life. Let me figure out if this is actually what I want to do. And it didn't make sense to stay there anymore. It just makes sense to go find a job and get into it, right? It did not make sense to finish that. Well, I could have, graduated with the next 30 hours, but I would have just wasted another year and a half of my life, and I decided not to do that. So I jumped, and it was really the right move at the end of the day. Because at that point, I knew I had the tenacious ability to figure it out. I was willing to stay up late, do whatever I was willing to do to get it done, figure it out, teach myself, got a contract programming job, learned more programming on the job as I did the job, got better at it, asked for pay raises, went from what was 4.25 an hour at my job at the college to 25 an hour when I was contract programming. So I was, by the time I was 19, I was starting to roll in some money. And that was kind of fun. And I did apply for a full-time position because I was actually able to do that inside of Sprint. And they had launched a new division called Sprint PCS Mobile, which was bought not long ago, I think, by T-Mobile. But they were launching that new mobile division, brand new mobile phones, guys. I don't feel the age I am when I explain this stuff, but dude, when I start explaining this to people, they're like, "How old are you?" But at 50, life has changed extremely fast for us, right? And, mobile phones were coming online, and I had to be a part of that. So I pivoted, I applied to a job. I got into one of the 5 positions that was open for a new section inside to support the mobile division. And very quickly, I got promoted into the manager of that division, where the average age of the employees around me was dead. I'm 20 years old, and everybody else was in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do and lead these people? I have no idea what I'm doing. So I just did it, just did it imperfectly, just did what I could do, got promoted, became the top worker. We launched all these internal systems to support the super fast mobile launches that were happening, and just explosive hyper growth inside of that system. We went from I was a 5,000 badged employee in Sprint in around 2000. By 2004, when I left to go to IBM, they picked me up, but there was like 50,000 people working in that company. So it was just an explosion, very fascinating. I used to joke that somewhere in that infrastructure you could pull a plug out of the wall and the whole thing would go down. It was just baling wire and duct tape. They were just holding the thing together. But I was doing a lot of knowledge management work, which is the precursor to the engines we use today, latent semantic search engines, the precursors to artificial intelligence and large language models. And we were working very detailed in that, in semantic-based search engines and knowledge management construction and all that stuff. We built the first enterprise-level knowledge management system that got deployed at a corporate level into Sprint. At that point, was part of that team, one of the team leads that helped actually get that out to the entire world. And IBM came in, helped us with that project. One of the partners picked up on what was going on. And, there was an opening there, and he said, hey, just fly out to New York, go to our Monk, interview for this job. I think you'll probably get it. Turns out he put in a good word for me. I walked in 20 minutes later. It took longer to get there, to drive, to fly. I was in Kansas City, flew all the way to New York, got in there, had a 10-minute interview, walked out. And on my way out the door, they called me up and they said, you got the job. So I left from there and went to IBM, which was very different because at that point I was no longer cubicle, no longer in Kansas City. I was a MX card, laptop, fly in anywhere in the world all of a sudden. And so I became, I've been moved was the joke because every week I'd be in like 2 or 3 cities doing different things across different projects. And that went on until about 2007. A lot of stuff happened in that point. Really, just the freedom of my ability to manage hours, work independently with different teams, cross border complexities, large systems moving, thousands of transactions a second, very large systems. Moving into the AI world quite a bit. We were working on my last project for about 2 years out of Armonk. It was an AI-driven engine for telecommunications that was supposed to determine with accuracy the reason why the person actually called in. So we were scoping that out. I was working with all these double docs. We called them the double Harvard degrees, science, computer scientists, technical scientists, and stuff. And we were working on part of the Watson Super Blue computer, the Super Cray machine there at IBM, which was a super amount of fun. And I felt completely out of my league, just to be very clear. I was 23, 24 by that point, coming on 25-ish. If memory serves me correctly, I had no degree, but I had all the experience. I had all the knowledge of the systems. I understood the complexities of it. I understood the systems, the people, the processes, the technology. I could speak the business and the tech, and so I ended up sort of being in the middle of all of that between business and technology. So both teams kind of liked me and leaned on me a lot because I was able to be like a translator, if you will. And it worked out to be really great. We did some amazing things, and I got to see some really cool things, stuff that I now recognize, fast forward real quick, is the technology and precursor for the AI systems we're using now, the large language models and stuff. All that stuff we did back in the early 2000s is what's allowed us to see AI become a reality today, which is really fascinating to see it at the ground level like that.
So now you do all that. You had a good experience with a few different businesses. Or I
Yep.
guess back then you dropped out of college, went down that route, got a few
Hmm.
great opportunities, and working in kind of the corporate environment.
Yeah.
Now, kind of how did you make the shift from working for others, in larger name businesses, and sounds like some fun roles to kind of going down your own business path?
Yeah, I was shaping some stuff. Well, look, man, I never wanted to go to the corporate route. That's just what necessity pivoted me to. That's the word. I didn't really want to do that. Corporate wasn't my life. I didn't want to be there. I was kind of sad, depressed. I ended up gaining 100 pounds. I was just not happy with that. And I had a side hustle going on for a little while. It was actually doing pretty good. It was called Killer Game Servers. So I got pretty good at gaming Counter-Strike and some of those online games back in the day. And I built up a service program to what's called a codec, an audio codec, kind of like what we're using right now on Zoom, but this was back in the day. And we didn't have it built into the games yet. Like multiplayer gaming today is so, interconnected through all the systems. That was not the case. And so I built a service that would allow people to come onto my server and talk with each other like we are doing right now while they were multiplayer gaming. And they were, separate at that point. And that service, I had like 7 servers running out of Texas, and I had a couple of thousand people paying me $24 a month. And so that was my game plan, was to really just pull that into a full-time job. I was always working on some sort of side hustle. I never, again, wanted to be there. So I was looking for a way out. When the time came around 2006, 2007, I saw an opportunity to jump. Unfortunately, my wife also saw an opportunity to jump into the arms of another man. So that kind of changed things for me too. But in that process, I got to kind of reset, and life kind of got reset, literally, down to living. I had a car, and I borrowed a room for my cousin because I didn't have anything anymore. I kind of lost everything in the divorce and had to start over. But in 2007, when I jumped out of IBM, that was sort of my saving grace because I had nothing left to risk. There was all the risk was gone. It was kind of like, hey, like why not? Let's just do this. And in that process, for those few years where I dealt with all that difficulty and finished the divorce and came through all that nonsense, I was ready to be done with that side of my life. I was like, done. Let's eject, right? Let's just go. I met this wonderful woman in that process. Turns out, she and I have been together for 20 years. We have 4 daughters. That was a God thing that she brought, her into my life. But I was also ready for her because the guy previous was not ready for her. But I met her in that process, and hope it was restored, and life and ideas were restored. And in that process of like, let's go do this, we got married in March of 2007, and I left my job in June. Technically, I was about to get fired because I was going to quit. So I'm like, well, you can't let go of me. I quit. My mentor inside who brought me into this job originally, he's like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. We have an early retirement plan for you. Just hold still. Don't do it. Like, I was ready to go. Like, I'm just gonna quit. I'm like, no, 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 don't quit, don't quit. And so, gave me an early retirement package. It ended up helping us, get everything off the ground. And we set off on our own. In the first year of our marriage, I launched my business. My wife had graduated at that point with an RN, BSN, and so she was working as a nurse. So we had a little bit of income over there. I lost, of course, my income past severance, and it was just time to jump and go, man. Went all in. I had actually no idea. The Killer Game Server thing died, so I had no other plan but to just go do something. And it really just became, how can I sell something with ethics and integrity, and how can I pivot into a job that I love and enjoy and want to be a part of and never go back to the corporate world. That was literally what I no burn bridges because I use those contacts later on, but I certainly burned the boats. And just was never going to go back. And, because we were starting off from the ground up, she had just graduated, all we had was some student loan debt for her. And it was just life, forward. What are we going to do? What are we going to make of this? And I actually got a chance to just kind of restart everything, which was super cool.
Now, when you restarted things, kind of what was it that you focused on, or what was kind of the
Yeah.
the plan? Or sometimes there isn't a plan. Sometimes you say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm done. I want to be or doing something else. I'll
Right,
figure it
dude.
out. I got a little bit of savings, and I'll take a bit of time off." And other times you say, there are people who say, "Hey, before I make the leap or before I go in a new direction, I want to have a plan." So, kind
No,
of as
man,
you're
I would have never
making
made it to
that
that
leap.
point. No, I would have never made it to that point if I had had to stop and try to think through a plan and try to execute a plan. That's just not who I am. Uh, I'm able to, I have discovered in multiple instances in my life, I'm able to pivot, adapt. I've been able to use my faith and other things to work past any of those challenges mentally and physically, confidentially, whatever, and had the confidence to move and just go. So it really, I'm a guy who just jumps off a cliff and builds the parachute on the way down. That's just who I am. So I have to surround myself with people who are more structured, like my wife and my business partner, who are kind of very staccato in the way they think, make lists, are actionable and operational. I'm not that guy. That's why they're around me. And so I push them to jump off bridges, and they push me to make sure I try not to, kill everybody in the process. And it balances out, which is awesome, right? But I had no plan. So there was a thing called NetSuite, which may be more familiar to some people now. Not a lot of people know it. It's a CRM-based tool that was rolling up out of a startup. And I just started selling NetSuite. Like, let me just sell something. Started selling software, right, as a service, and made a little money off of that. Kind of figured out that it was, connections and business and networking are what I was really starting to learn about, how to make a network and connection beyond the career, where it was sort of made for you in many ways. But now you're out on your own. You're the sole provider. You're the sales guy. You're the marketing guy. You're the bookkeeper. You're everything, right? And so I had to really start learning each of those roles. And for the first 3, 4, 5 years, that's what I was focused on, was what are the roles that I'm good at? Which ones can I be doing? Which ones am I not good at? And that just kept pivoting through different things, mobile startups, high tech startups, selling and developing software and patented based product technologies is a part of those ventures. And really, where things kicked off for me was when I want to say discovered, but sort of, the internet marketing world really kicked up in those years after the 99 debacle that blew up around 2001 through 7 or so. A lot of the online stuff was now becoming more standardized. So by 2009 to Route 10 or so, roughly, if memory serves me correctly, I got involved in mobile marketing. It was familiar to me because of the time at Sprint. I knew the mobile devices were growing extremely fast. Nobody was really pushing marketing across them. So what I did was I just kind of connected affiliate marketing with mobile marketing, and I started launching paid campaigns. Now, there was no interfaces. There was no Facebook ads like people know today. There was no systems. They hadn't been developed yet. I was contracting with companies who had connectivity to the mobile backbone, and then we were giving them spreadsheets, giving them spreadsheets of creative information, and what I wanted to target for the affiliate campaigns that I was going after. And then they would load it into the server, throw $100 at it, see if it works. You'd have to wait for 24 hours or more to get the data back. And it was just really a slow process. But I started hammering that out day by day, day by day. And literally, it took me 299 campaigns of failure and roughly around $40,000 in credit cards before I hit my first profitable affiliate campaign. And it was a dating offer in South Africa. And for whatever reason, that one just took off. And all of a sudden, it was 50, 100, 500, $1,000 a day. And when that thing blew up, it was, debt disappeared and we started becoming net positive really fast. And what I learned was I had that aptitude to go, through a process, test, and just be tenacious and not give up. Many people would have given up at the 100 or 200 mark. I was on my way to the 300th campaign before I hit a winner. So that just allowed me to dial it in. And once I figured it out, every campaign after that started printing money. And so I took a lot of that capital and got invested into a company, a startup in Oklahoma. Well, it turns out that was a big risk. It was bigger. It was more, forest and tree kind of situation than I actually realized when I got involved, got some friends and family involved. It really was a very, very cool idea of a patented technology that I think would be very applicable to today's world based on where I saw the competition end up now in hindsight. But it turns out those guys were really not good at managing the finances, selling the business. They were better at taking investor funds and doing things with them. And so when I discovered the way that they were doing that, I lawyered up, I got indemnified, and I had to take a massive loss on that. So most of the money that I'd made, I ended up going bankrupt with because I literally over leveraged myself, bought it too far into the idea, and learned a very tough lesson in life and business about who you trust and where you put your risk and your money. Big lesson, right? And everybody's afraid to push it to the max. They think bankruptcy is the worst. It was pretty bad then, by the way. And we were pregnant with our fourth child. My pregnant wife watched our car get repossessed out of the garage one night. That wasn't very fun. We had only so much cash to balance between, paying bills and feeding the children. And I had all that weight of risk and failure on top of me. And it was a difficult time, man. I'm not gonna lie. But family and friends stepped up, God stepped in, things just occurred that were, I would say miraculous in that walk. And just the biggest lesson I learned was about risk. What are boundaries that people put on themselves? There are boundaries, there are rules, then there are guidelines. And what I was really learning between the law, between the business, between finance, between relationship, networking, marketing, I was really learning a boundary that most people don't ever get to see. Does that make sense?
No,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, kind of with that now is the backdrop, having all and learning a lot of those things, what not to
yeah,
do, the mistakes made along the way, which I think
absolutely.
every business owner gets to experience in varying degrees, kind of
Hmm.
or catch us up, kind of how that led or what that
Yeah.
evolution was that brought you to where you're at today.
Well, I went back to my core, right? So my core was marketing and online. And so I went back to that. And in the process of that, one thing I had recognized in my learning lesson was while I was affiliating and marketing products, I didn't own the end result. I didn't own the outcome. So I was kind of a hired gun. And whenever the traffic would stop or the affiliate offer would change, I'd lose my momentum and have to restart again, which was very frustrating. So in that process of research, I discovered physical products and discovering the idea of branding aspect of it was new to me. So I started to learn, got into a course that was real overpriced and very undereducated. But I met someone named Reed Larson who was very strong in business, serial entrepreneur, had done a lot of stuff in the real estate world. He held the operational component in his brain, the financing and the structure of business and controls, very structured. I've had the let's push this, let's market this, let's figure this out, let's go, go, go. And we kind of combined and clicked. And in that process, we started launching our first products. And once the first product started to take off, I would say it was like the dime bag of crack. I was just hooked because between the marketing now and the engines online and the ability to more automate that income, to see it continue to grow and go through the process of brand building with physical products and additional products and brand, really I saw that all that effort I was making can now turn into something bigger. It could turn into a saleable, scalable asset. And that just really clicked. So around 2012 to 14, we were just launching products like crazy. We hit a couple of great bangers that by 2015 had created a seven-figure business in the physical world. And since then, we have just been continuing the same playbook of launching physical-based products on Amazon and TikTok and Shopify. We now have big box retail stores. One of our brands in six big box retail stores. We're now eight-figure sellers. We've got 20 plus brands under our control at all varying levels of size and shape across all kinds of niches. We have our operations teams that are just distributed across the world, very deep into the AI systems and processes of control, management, marketing, our own versions of, if you will, fintech connections to the data housing that allows us to operate and control these brands with only three operators who are partners in the brands with us. We have a very lean, thin organization for what we do and the amount of business that we do. And it's been just an absolute amount of fun watching each of these different kinds of physical products go to the market and then just take off. I never would have thought I'd be selling, like rice makers and pizza ovens and that kind of stuff. Just stuff I never would have thought. But when the money and the profit and the green light comes in and you're like, hey, let's go, let's test this product, and then it starts to take off. That's when things obviously get to be really fun. And it's just an always changing, evolving, fun. I could do this for another 20 years and not be bored.
No, that's awesome. That's a fun place to be. And even if it takes a good journey and some dips along the way to be able to
Absolutely.
arrive at that place is definitely
Yeah.
a great evolution to the journey. So before we jump to, I always wrap up with a couple questions at the end, but before we
Yeah.
jump to that, if you were to kind of look out over the next, 6 to 12 months and kind of say where
hmm
things headed or what that might look like, kind of what does that look like for you?
6 to 12 months. For the last 3 to 4 years, we pivoted heavily into AI technologies at the workflow tactical level to replace certain processes and expedite them. At that point, we are now seeing the ability to make it easier for our businesses in 6 to 12 months to 10x their outcomes because of AI, because of the data sets, because of our now connectivity directly to Amazon's data sets through MCP, Shopify through MCP, marketing engines through MCP and UGC type of creatives and platforms. That we have an engine now inside of this organization that is literally operating at the speed of thought thanks to the power of AI. So the next 6 to 12 months just means there are a number of brands that last year did not have the same tool set, technology, data, people, process, etc. And we have those in place now. And some of them have already been experiencing exponential growth. We launched a product about 4 weeks ago, less than 4 weeks ago, and it's already at 6,000 a day in sales on Amazon. And now that we're seeing that validation, it's time to order up, another $200,000 of inventory and just take that to the market and then use AI to move it into multi-channel very, very quickly. From Walmart.com, where I have a channel partnership out of Arkansas to get online with them directly, to TikTok Shop, where we're going to blow up a couple brands because they're ripe now to go into a full TikTok push. AI UGC creators will be helping us do that. And then, of course, expanding retail big box through connectivity and with processes that are now being controlled and managed with AI. So the next 6 to 12 months are really about expediting the processes and workflows. And what it's going to do, Devin, is those who are new or in mid process with a business are going to find themselves about 2 years behind in about 6 months, right? The leap and opportunity cost of not getting involved right now is this opportunity window is going to close because as the big dogs are growing and going, it's going to be a lot harder for smaller businesses and companies to pivot in certain areas of things like physical products. However, in fintech and other locations where I see some of my friends playing in, their next 6 to 12 months is going to be quite insane. But for us, it's going to be just continuing to double down on the processes because the rate of growth is going to be phenomenal in the next 6 to 12 months. Just phenomenal.
No, sounds like an exciting upcoming opportunities and their ability to catapult a lot of the businesses forward. So it should be
Yeah,
fun to see how that all plays out.
yeah,
Well, now as we have reached the present day of the journey and even looking a bit more to where things are headed, great time to transition now to the two questions I always like to ask at the end of each
sure,
episode. So
sure.
we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
So the worst business, I covered it, the investment. Worst the business decision I ever made was being too over leveraged in one investment.
Gotcha. No, and that one's, sometimes it's hard to know. Sometimes if you just double down or went or pursue the investment a little bit further, it turns
Yep.
around or has that, that magic that it needed. And other times, all you do is keep, throwing bad money after, or, good money after bad or
You
bad
can
money
find
after
those ones.
good, whatever you want to call
Absolutely
it.
do.
And
Yeah.
so in that sense, it's always one where easy to make that mistake, but always a great one to learn from.
Yeah, and staying in your lane, that's a component of that, like a sub nuance. If you know something you're good at, or you're willing to be, deep into the learning, and that's all you're going to focus on, then you will probably see yourself, knowing when it's time to get in, get out, or change or pivot, right? At this point, for me, not coming off of e-commerce, I've had a couple of missed investments this year. Due to stepping out of my lane, which was sort of stupid, and I got slapped on the face and be like, "Well, that's why you don't do that, dummy." Losing a couple hundred grand in online trading for some stock stuff that I was doing, and it's like, well, that didn't work. So stay in your lane.
Yep, and that again, that could be a whole other conversation. I mean, it is
Yep.
one where, it is hard as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you see a lot of opportunities, a lot of things and excitement, and we always kind
Right.
of get, myself included, get caught up in the dream of what if and what could be,
A
and so you go
squirrel.
down those routes, and
Yeah.
sometimes it does work out, and sometimes it's a
Sometimes.
great opportunity, but just as
Yeah.
likely you start
Yep.
to stray outside your lane, you start to go in directions that sound exciting and fun, but at the end of the day, are the best use of your time, money, or effort, and can sometimes have that adverse
Well
effect.
said. Yeah.
Uh,
Know your risk. Like for me now, a couple 100,000 wasn't a big deal, but it would have been obviously a long time ago to lose that, a couple thousand for somebody else, 10,000, 20,000. That's different. Every, level comes with different risk. At that point, my risk was, well, let's cut my losses as opposed to going any farther. All right. It's just different levels of risk.
yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
Second question now that I like to ask, and maybe you already touched on it a bit, but now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what'd be the
Hmm.
one rule of thumb you'd recommend?
Spend every day learning as much about how AI is going to impact that business and then learn how you can utilize it or get replaced by it. Right. This is something that I think that it sounds like fear mongering, and I'm not somebody who generally, does that. I'm just ringing a bell. When I got out of college and went with the internet, there was a very different momentum that led to 99, which was a big reset in expectations of how that internet could work for businesses, startup, and capital. And obviously, between 2000 and now, people figured that out, right? They figured out how to deploy that capital at what risk levels and how to move certain product types to market. But those were new infrastructures. Those were not infrastructures that were learning and growing on their own or adapting and moving at the speed of thought. We're in a very different position now with AI's ability to, in many ways, out execute basic functions and basic workflows and basic job roles and even knowledge worker based job roles. Like what I did in IBM back in the day now would be replaced by AI. So what's happening, I think, is that people are not anticipating that if they're going to involved in a business or a startup, the first thing they need to do is understand what has changed in that industry. For us, it's we're no longer just selling physical products. We're actually a media company, right? We have
Hmm.
pivoted to becoming a media company that sells brand first, lifestyle, whatever, safety, pain, etc., and then backs into a physical product. So that's something that we've had to pivot with AI because of this. And that creates huge opportunities. It just changes the opportunity cost, and that's what people need to know when they get started up right now. What's the opportunity cost that I get going in something and AI is going to literally destroy it as they roll out these updates that some, I hear 5 SaaS owners crying every day when I get on Twitter because they just got blown away by one of these major updates.
No, definitely makes sense. Good rule of thumb and a great takeaway. Well, now as we do wrap towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, voltagedm.com. That's voltagedigitalmarketing.com. There's a podcast where I drop daily operator insights from our business. You can check that out. Of course, on any of the social medias, etc. Just check out the information. If you're interested in speaking with me, I have a membership that is just related to only the exclusivity of invite and those who want to work with us on more of a one-on-one continued basis where AI technology tool sets, physical e-commerce, and physical brand building is the core focus of that.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, make a new connection. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again, Neil, for coming on the
Thank you.
podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you their listeners are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So, just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Well, thank you again, Neil, for coming on the podcast, and wish the
Thanks for
next
having
leg
me.
of your journey even better than the last.
The road ain't straight, it's got a bend. Dreams of seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small be shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trail. Inventive journey never fails. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars